Welcome to our channel. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and turn on the notification bell. Borobudur is a 7th century Mahayana Buddhist temple in Magelang Regency, not far from the town of Muntilan, in central Java, Indonesia. The temple consists of 9 stacked platforms, 6 square and 3 circular, topped by a central dome. It is decorated with 2,672 relief panels and 504 Buddha statues. The central dome is surrounded by 72 Buddha statues, each seated inside a perforated stupa. Built in the 9th century during the reign of the Sailendra dynasty, the temple design follows Javanese Buddhist architecture, which blends the Indonesian indigenous tradition of ancestor worship and the Buddhist concept of attaining nirvana. The temple demonstrates the influences of Gupta art that reflects India's influence on the region. Yet there are enough indigenous scenes and elements incorporated to make Borobudur uniquely Indonesian. The monument is a shrine to the Buddha and a place for Buddhist pilgrimage. The pilgrim journey begins at the base of the monument and follows a path around the monument, ascending to the top through 3 levels symbolic of Buddhist cosmology: Kamadhatu, the world of desire; Rupadhatu, the world of forms; and Arapadhatu, the world of formlessness. The monument guides pilgrims through an extensive system of stairways and corridors with 1,460 narrative relief panels on the walls and the balustrades. Borobudur has one of the largest and most complete ensembles of Buddhist reliefs in the world. Evidence suggests that Borobudur was constructed in the 7th century and subsequently abandoned following the 14th century decline of Hindu kingdoms in Java and the Javanese conversion to Islam. Worldwide knowledge of its existence was sparked in 1814 by Sir Thomas Stamford Raffles, then the British ruler of Java, who was advised of its location by native Indonesians. Borobudur has since been preserved through several restorations. The largest restoration project was undertaken between 1975 and 1982 by the Indonesian government and UNESCO, followed by the monument's listing as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Borobudur is the largest Buddhist temple in the world, and ranks with Bagan in Myanmar and Angkor Wat in Cambodia as one of the great archaeological sites of Southeast Asia. Borobudur remains popular for pilgrimage, with Buddhists in Indonesia celebrating Vesak Day at the monument. Borobudur is Indonesia's single most visited tourist attraction. In Indonesian, ancient temples are referred to as candi, thus locals refer to Borobudur Temple as Candi Borobudur. The term candi also loosely describes ancient structures, for example gates and baths. The origins of the name Borobudur, however, are unclear, although the original names of most ancient Indonesian temples are no longer known. The name Borobudur was first written in Raffles's book on Javan history. Raffles wrote about a monument called Borobudur, but there are no older documents suggesting the same name. The only old Javanese manuscript that hints the monument called Budur as a holy Buddhist sanctuary is Nagarakretagama, written by Mpu Prapanka, a Buddhist scholar of Majapahit court, in 1365. Borobudur location: approximately 40 kilometers 25 miles northwest of Yogyakarta and 86 kilometers 53 miles west of Surakarta. Borobudur is located in an elevated area between 2 twin volcanoes, Sundoro Suming and Merbabu Merapi, and 2 rivers, the Progo and the Elo. According to local myth, the area known as Kedu Plain is a Javanese, sacred, place and has been dubbed, the Garden of Java, due to its high agricultural fertility. Speculation about a surrounding lake's existence was the subject of intense discussion among archaeologists in the 20th century. In 1931, a Dutch artist and scholar of Hindu and Buddhist architecture, W.O.J. Nieuwenkamp, developed a hypothesis that the Kedu Plain was once a lake and Borobudur initially represented a lotus flower floating on the lake. It has been claimed that Borobudur was built on a bedrock hill, 265 meters 869 feet above sea level and 15 meters 49 feet above the floor of a dried-out paleolake. Dumarque together with Professor Thani Kaimoni took soil samples in 1974 and again in 1977 from trial trenches that had been dug into the hill, as well as from the plain immediately to the south. These samples were later analyzed by Thani Kaimoni, who examined their pollen and spore content to identify the type of vegetation that had grown in the area around the time of Borobudur's construction. They were unable to discover any pollen or spore samples that were characteristic of any vegetation known to grow in an aquatic environment such as a lake, pond or marsh. The area surrounding Borobudur appears to have been surrounded by agricultural land and palm trees at the time of the monument's construction, as is still the case today. Caesar Voot and the geomorphologist Dr. J. J. Nosson in 1985-86 field studies re-examined the Borobudur Lake hypothesis and confirmed the absence of a lake around Borobudur at the time of its construction and active use as a sanctuary. These findings and new perspective on some old questions pertaining to Borobudur were published in the 2005 UNESCO publication titled The Restoration of Borobudur. Construction. There are no known records of construction or the intended purpose of Borobudur. The duration of construction has been estimated by comparison of carved reliefs on the temple's hidden foot and the inscriptions commonly used in royal charters during the 8th and 9th centuries. Borobudur was likely founded around 800 AD. This corresponds to the period between 760 and 830 AD. The peak of the Sailendra dynasty rule over Mataram kingdom in central Java, when their power encompassed not only the Srivijayan Empire, but also southern Thailand. Indianized kingdoms of Philippines. North Malaya Kedah, also known in Indian texts as the ancient Hindu state of Kedaram. The construction has been estimated to have taken 75 years with completion during the reign of Samaratunga in 825. There is uncertainty about Hindu and Buddhist rulers in Java around that time. The Sailendras were known as ardent followers of Buddhism, though stone inscriptions found at Sojomerto also suggest they may have been Hindus. It was during this time that many Hindu and Buddhist monuments were built on the plains and mountains around the Kedu Plain. The Buddhist monuments, including Borobudur, were erected around the same period as the Hindu Shiva Prambanan Temple compound. In 732 AD, the Shivate king Sanjaya commissioned a Shivalinga sanctuary to be built on the Wukir hill, only 10 kilometers (6.2 miles) east of Borobudur. Construction of Buddhist temples, including Borobudur, at that time was possible because Sanjaya's immediate successor, Rakai Panangkaran, granted his permission to the Buddhist followers to build such temples. In fact, to show his respect, Panangkaran gave the village of Kalasan to the Buddhist community. As is written in the Kalasan Charter dated 778 AD, this has led some archaeologists to believe that there was never serious conflict concerning religion in Java, as it was possible for a Hindu king to patronize the establishment of a Buddhist monument, or for a Buddhist king to act likewise. However, it is likely that there were two rival royal dynasties in Java at the time, the Buddhist Sailendra and the Saivite Sanjaya, in which the latter triumphed over their rival in the 856 battle on the Ratubaka Plateau. Similar confusion also exists regarding the Lara Jongrang temple at the Prambanan complex, which was believed to have been erected by the victor Rakai Paikatan as the Sanjaya dynasty's reply to Borobudur, but others suggest that there was a climate of peaceful coexistence where Sailendra involvement exists in Lara Jongrang. Abandonment. Borobudur lay hidden for centuries under layers of volcanic ash and jungle growth. The facts behind its abandonment remain a mystery. It is not known when active use of the monument and Buddhist pilgrimage to it ceased. Sometime between 928 and 1006, King Mpu Sindik moved the capital of the Medang kingdom to the region of East Java after a series of volcanic eruptions. It is not certain whether this influenced the abandonment, but several sources mention this as the most likely period of abandonment. The monument is mentioned vaguely as late as c. 1365, in Mpu Prapankas Nagarakretagama, written during the Majapahit era, and mentioning the Vihara in Budir. Sokmono 1976 also mentions the monument was not forgotten completely, though folk stories gradually shifted from its past glory into more superstitious beliefs associated with bad luck and misery. Two old Javanese chronicles Babad from the 18th century mention cases of bad luck associated with the monument. According to the Babad Tanah Jawi, or the History of Java, the monument was a fatal factor for Mas Dana, a rebel who revolted against Pakubuwono I, the king of Mataram in 1709. It was mentioned that the Ready Borobudur hill was besieged and the insurgents were defeated and sentenced to death by the king. in the Babad Mataram, or the history of the Mataram kingdom. The monument was associated with the misfortune of the crown prince of the Yogyakarta Sultanate in 1757. In spite of a taboo against visiting the monument, he took such pity on the knight who was captured in a cage, i.e. the statue in one of the perforated stupas, that he could not help coming to see his unfortunate friend. Upon returning to his palace, he fell ill and died one day later. Rediscovery. Following its capture, Java was under British administration from 1811 to 1816. The appointed governor was Lieutenant Governor General Thomas Stamford Raffles. On an inspection tour to Semarang in 1814, he was informed about a big monument deep in a jungle near the village of Bumasegoro. He was not able to see the site himself, but sent Herman Cornelius, a Dutch engineer who, among other antiquity explorations, had uncovered the Sewu complex in 1806-07. To investigate. In 2 months, Cornelius and his 200 men cut down trees, burned down vegetation, and dug away the earth to reveal the monument. Due to the danger of collapse, he could not unearth all galleries. He reported his findings to Raffles, including various drawings. Although Raffles mentioned the discovery and hard work by Cornelius and his men in only a few sentences, he has been credited with the monument's rediscovery, as the one who had brought it to the world's attention. Christian Lodewijk Hartman, the resident of the Kedu region, continued Cornelius's work, and in 1835, the whole complex was finally unearthed. His interest in Borobudur was more personal than official. Hartman did not write any reports of his activities. Christian Lodewijk Hartman, the resident of the Kedu region, continued Cornelius's work, and in 1835, the whole complex was finally unearthed. His interest in Borobudur was more personal than official. Hartman did not write any reports of his activities. In particular, the alleged story that he discovered the large statue of Buddha in the main stupa. In 1842, Hartman investigated the main dome, although what he discovered is unknown and the main stupa remains empty. The Dutch East Indies government then commissioned Frans Karel Wilson, a Dutch engineering official, who studied the monument and drew hundreds of relief sketches. Jan Frederik Gerrit Brumand was also appointed to make a detailed study of the monument, which was completed in 1859. The government intended to publish an article based on Brumand's study supplemented by Wilson's drawings, but Brumand refused to cooperate. The government then commissioned another scholar, Conradus Leemans, who compiled a monograph based on Brumand's and Wilson's sources. In 1873, the first monograph of the detailed study of Borobudur was published, followed by its French translation a year later. The first photograph of the monument was taken in 1872 by the Dutch-Flemish engraver Isidore van Kensbergen. Appreciation of the site developed slowly, and it served for some time largely as a source of souvenirs and income for souvenir hunters and thieves. In 1882, the Chief Inspector of Cultural Artifacts recommended that Borobudur be entirely disassembled with the relocation of reliefs into museums due to the unstable condition of the monument. As a result, the government appointed Willem Peter Gronevelt, curator of the archaeological collection of the Batavian Society of Arts and Sciences, to undertake a thorough investigation of the site and to assess the actual condition of the complex. His report found that these fears were unjustified and recommended it be left intact. Borobudur was considered as the source of souvenirs, and parts of its sculptures were looted, some even with colonial government consent. In 1896, King Chulalongkorn of Siam visited Java and requested and was allowed to take home 8 cartloads of sculptures taken from Borobudur. These include 30 pieces taken from a number of relief panels, 5 Buddha images, 2 lions, 1 gargoyle, several Kala motifs from the stairs and gateways, and a guardian statue Varapala. Several of these artifacts, most notably the lions, Varapala, Kala, Makara and giant waterspouts, are now on display in the Java Art Room in the National Museum in Bangkok. This is a review of Borobudur Temple. It can be a reference for visits and references to Indonesian and world history. Don't forget to subscribe and like this channel. Thank you.